Hello and welcome to the first of a 10-part series on JavaScript for intermediate programmers. The idea is that you know how to program in some language but not JavaScript, or you know a little bit of JavaScript and would like to learn more. We're going to cover the language all the way through the basics, through building web applications, hitting APIs, building command line applications, writing servers, building full stack apps, and along the way we'll cover unit testing and some advanced language features. So let's get right into it with JavaScript basics. Our first program is going to feature drawing and animation with bouncing balls in different colors, and we're going to be introducing objects, arrays, classes, and the traditional if, while, and for statements. So let's get right to it. You'll find online this wonderful P5.js editor. P5.js is a JavaScript library that makes doing graphics fun and easy. It features a setup and a draw function. Just a little run button right here. Setup is something that is done once. Here we create a 400 pixel by 400 pixel canvas, and a draw function, which is done at each animation frame. Here we're setting a background to a shade of gray. 0 is black, 255 is white, so 220 is kind of light. It'll do for now. Let's keep it. Let's begin by drawing let's draw a ball. Okay, so at position 100, 100 with a diameter of 50, let's get a circle shown. You can see that by default, shapes are outlined in black and they are filled in with white. If we don't like the stroke, the outline over here, we can turn it off. We can turn it off once at the beginning of the program. It's fine. And if you would like our ball to be, I don't know, blue, let's fill it with the color blue. And there we go. By the way, you can see that the coordinate 100, 100 means 100 pixels in from the left and 100 down from the top. If the y coordinate were 300, you'd see it'd be a lot farther down. Let's put it up at the top and let's now animate. Let's get the thing to fall. So to get it to fall, let's abstract the position of the ball into two variables. Let's call them x and y. So let's put x at 100 and let's put y at 0. And what we'll do is we'll draw the circle at xy. And to move it, we just have to make y move by, a little bit at each animation frame. So that's moving way too slow. How about 0.5? That's also slow. Let's just move it 1 pixel each animation frame. There we go. All right, well, at least it's moving and it's moving and it doesn't stop. So let's make it stop. When should the ball stop? The ball should stop if the y position is greater than the height of the canvas. Should we say greater than the height of the canvas? Well, let's see what happens over here. Will it stop? Will it stop? It stops, but the y position is actually in the center of the ball. So we would like to say if the value at the bottom of the ball, so y plus the ball's diameter divided by 2. Looks like we set the ball's diameter to 50, so the radius would be 25, so that'll stop it. That is not very good way to write code, right? We can't have two values that depend on each other like that, right? So let's draw it with the diameter and stop when the diameter divided by 2 is bigger than the height. Let's let that ball fall and see how it goes. And good, it stopped. All right, let's get the ball to bounce now. All right, so how do we make things bounce? Well, we bounce by inverting the speed, right? But what's our speed? Well, we're incrementing our y value by 1 each time. So when we get to the bottom, we need to somehow or other turn that around. So we need a speed variable. And we're going to do, let's introduce gravity over here, okay? Let's start off the speed at 0. But to be interesting about it, what we'll do is we'll make the speed increase by a little bit by we'll call it the force of gravity. So let's put in some gravity here. Notice I'm going to use const for gravity because these values here, well, actually, you know what, the diameter is not going to change, right? In JavaScript, we use let for variables that can change and const for ones that don't. So x and y are going to change, the speed's going to change, but the ball's diameter and the gravity will not. All right, so what we're going to do, this will be interesting. There we go. Now the ball looks like it's falling a little more. Ooh, it doesn't quite hit the bottom. That's because when you do get to the end, you know that the distance in pixels that the ball is moving each time is not exactly one. So we should make sure that when we do cross this range, we'll actually adjust the Y position to be exactly at the height minus the diameter over 2. And then we'll get a nice boom. Oh, still didn't work. Oh, that's because we didn't draw it again. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to, you know, we could tidy it up a little bit. Oh, that's not very good. That's not cleared. Not very fun. But you know what? This is not going to really matter because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be bouncing things anyway. All right, so rather than this no loop right here, we're going to adjust and then we're going to turn the speed around. So speed, what we can do, speed is negative speed. There we go. Now we're fine. See, but by the way, taking out that no loop actually really helped. Now the adjustment is spot on. All right, well, we have perfect elasticity here because we're just negating the speed and it's just going to bounce, 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 bounce forever. So it might actually be a little bit better if we dampen it a little bit. Maybe we'll dampen it, say 85%. And now it won't bounce up as much as it did before. And with any luck, the thing will nicely settle. Settle. Yep, there we go. Now we have a little bouncing ball program. But we can improve this program quite a bit. I mean, look at these values. There are so many global variables, right? But x, y, diameter, and speed, don't these all seem to be properties of a single ball object? I mean, right? You know, put x at 100, y at 0, diameter at 50, and speed at 0. All of these things, which are global variables, would look so much nicer if they were just wrapped up into a single object called ball. Now things do look a little bit better, right? Because now what we can say is, all right, when we draw the circle, let's draw it at the ball's x position, at the ball's y position with the ball's diameter. We'll change the ball's speed, and I'm doing a lot of work over here with ball. But the good thing is, when all this is said and done, we don't have a lot of global variables. Instead, we have one variable for the ball, and all the properties are rolled up into the ball. And that's actually, you know what, a really good thing, because this is a great segue into our next step, which is how do we have multiple balls? In JavaScript, there's this thing called an array. And let's see what those look like, okay? So arrays live in square brackets, much like objects live inside of curly braces. We can have multiple balls. And we can even make them of different sizes just for fun because, you know, why not? Oh, and let's put them in different x positions too. I think that will be very, very helpful. All right, so now we have 3 balls, not just one, and our program's completely broken because it doesn't know about ball, right? It knows about balls. Well, fortunately, there is a way in JavaScript to do something for every element of the array. I said for every element of the array, and the way that's done in JavaScript is with for and of. So we're going to make each ball of the balls array assigned to a little local variable called ball. And now with any luck, we're up for each ball. It's actually not working over here. Balls is not defined. Oh, balls with an S. Okay, now it's fine. I meant to say balls. What are you going to do? Programming's hard, right? Okay, and now we have 3 bouncing balls, and they will all settle, and eventually they stop. And that's pretty cool. All right, next, what if we had like 50 or 60 balls? What if we had 1,000 balls? I mean, I can't keep copy pasting 60 or 70 of these things in here. I mean, that would be a little bit crazy. There needs to be a better way to do this. We should be able to populate the array of balls iteratively, like put 50, 100, 2,000 balls in there. So, but to do that, first thing though, is we need a nicer way to create a ball object rather than just like writing it all out. And it turns out JavaScript gives us a really cool thing called a class for making objects that all look the same. So if I want a way to construct an arbitrary ball, I can use a class called ball, and I can give it the rule for constructing balls called a constructor. And within the constructor, the ball we're constructing, the object we're constructing, is referred to by this. So at this point, I can put in some parameters for the ball that I'm constructing. And for now, we'll just put in a few arbitrary values. And you can see that, well, I don't want all my balls to be exactly the same. So we can have a little bit of fun here. Let's take a random value between 0 and the width of the canvas. The y value could be, a random value between, I don't know, 0 and 10. Doesn't have to start at the top. The diameter could be a random value between, well, we don't want the ball to be too small. So, at least 10 pixels and at most 50. And the speed, yeah, I guess we can always start that at 0. And now we need to create a number of different ball objects and put them into the ball array, right? And now, because we can't just list them all, we have to iteratively put them in the array. We have to create a ball, put it in the array, create a ball, put it in the array, create a ball, put it in the array. And the way that you add elements to an array is with something called push. And so what we need to do is write some code after we create the canvas, to get all of those elements inside of the balls array. Okay. Now, before we do that, at this point right here, you want to turn off this auto refresh right here. You want to stop the code and turn off auto refresh, because what we're going to do is write the following code, which you've probably seen in another programming language. I'm going to write here, while the length of the balls array is less than, let's just say 20 to start, I'm going to push onto the balls array. I'm going to add a new ball. Like so, new ball. What this code says here is create a new ball and add it to the balls array. Now we have, and we keep doing this as long as the length of the balls array is less than 20. So this is the way that we create 20 new balls. Okay, we'll rerun the program over here and we have 20 new balls. All right, I can put auto refresh back on now. The reason I turned off auto refresh is that if you're not careful and you don't get any code in here, the browser is just going to run into a loop forever. It's not going to be pretty. So make sure your while statements work before you turn on auto refresh. You'll probably run into that problem. A lot of people do. Okay, this code needs some cleaning up big time. I mean, oh my gosh, why is every single ball blue? Let's get rid of that. Let's get a random color in here. Okay, now how do we make colors in JavaScript? Well, colors have a red part, a green part, and a blue part, all between 0 and 255. So let's do the following. Let's just randomize the color. So the red part is a value between 0 and 255, where 0 means no red, 255 means all the red. And we'll do the same thing for green and the same thing for blue. And we've got to remember, we just set the ball color, but when we draw the ball, we need just before we draw the circle to fill with the ball's color. And now our balls are all different colors. One thing about the balls, though, is that I'm noticing that it would be nice if they were a little bit transparent. There's a fourth value for transparency, which if you set it to 0, the balls would be completely opaque. And if you set it to 255, oh, sorry, it's the other way around. 255 means completely opaque. 0 means completely transparent. So you can't see them at all. And then different values along the way will be different degrees of transparency, or technically opaqueness, right? Because 255 is fully opaque and 0 is fully transparent. Maybe we should ramp this up to 150, might look a little bit nicer. All right. And maybe we'll need more balls. So maybe this should be more like 40. Right? And maybe you want the balls to be a little bit bigger, and maybe the balls should be a little more randomized in their starting position. Maybe some of them can start off the screen, and maybe the speeds can actually vary a little bit. So the speed might actually be different values. Whatever. You get the idea. Okay, one last thing before we go is to properly use a class. It's not just about construction, but a really nice thing to do is to put into the ball class how the balls behave. If I look at my draw function here to draw each animation frame, it's getting pretty big. It's getting a little bit messy because there's these two lines of code in here tell us how to move the ball, to draw the ball, and these tell us how to move the ball. So it'd be a lot nicer if we could just tell the ball to draw and then tell the ball to move. This would be nice. So here's the code right here to draw the ball. So inside of our ball class, we could drop in some code for drawing, like so. And we'll also put in some code for moving. And we're going to grab the move code right here. This will be the move code. See how much nice that code is? Draw the background, and for each ball, draw it and move it. Now we're talking. Okay. Now the thing is, when you're inside of a class, though, we no longer have a variable called ball. Like I mentioned before with the constructor, the object to which you are applying these operations, whether construction or drawing or moving or any so-called method that you create, is known as this, not as ball. So we need to replace all these ball values with the word this, and let's hit run. Again, sometimes when you save, it turns off the run. And there we have it. Let's let it settle and we'll examine our code. There we go, a little bouncing ball function with transparent balls. Here's a ball class. Classes have constructors. They have methods, which do some work. Here's an array of balls, a gravity constant, and the P5JS special function setup, which is done once at the beginning of the program, and draw, which is done at each animation frame, making animation pretty trivial. I mean, your job in P5 is to just draw each frame. Draw will be called for you all the time. And there you have it. We took a look at the P5 editor. We drew some circles. We showed how to do animation. We put a ball into an object and used an if statement so that we were able to bounce it when it got to the bottom of the canvas. We put multiple balls into the array, which we filled with a while statement. We used a for statement so we could iterate through all the balls in the array to make sure that they were all drawn and moved. We looked at colors, including transparency. I put everything in classes because, you know, classes are pretty cool. And that's the first video. Hope it was useful. See you in the next one if you choose to continue with the series. Okay, bye-bye for now.